So KSI is going to be making his boxing return in 2025. He just announced an opponent, which then pulled out of the fight, Wayne Bridge, who not a lot of people seem to be that interested in that fight, and a pretty bizarre choice after criticizing Jake Paul for fighting retired old fighters. Now he's going to fight a 45-year-old soccer player, but nonetheless, that fight's now done, and someone who has been in talks to fight KSI and fight Jake Paul and fight some of these guys is Darren Till. He was scheduled to fight Tommy Fury instead of Anthony Taylor on the Misfits 20 card. Instead, he took on the short notice replacement in Anthony Taylor and beat him up pretty bad. A great performance, a great knockout from Darren Till, who showed that he's in the scene and he's ready to make a splash. Anthony Taylor has not been a joke. He's a tough opponent. He's shown that in his fights on Misfits, so Darren Till will definitely be a great matchup for any one of these guys. But for KSI, definitely one that if I was his team, I'd be pushing for.
Yeah, Darren Till is realistically the perfect opponent for KSI. When you look at it, he's signed to Misfits. He's coming off of a huge knockout victory over Anthony Taylor, a guy who's never been stopped, especially on Misfits before. And he has that personality. He'll make the build-up exciting at the press conferences. We saw that in the UFC and as well in the Tommy Fury press conference. This guy has what it takes to make a big fight happen with KSI. It would just be a big shame if we don't see KSI take on one of those tests and prove that he's in the scene to be a top dog still, and he's still in it to compete at the top level. This Darren Till fight would be a perfect opportunity for that.
Yeah, now if I'm going to be honest, do I see KSI taking this fight, especially next? Definitely not. It seems like KSI and his team want to build up. They want to continue building and get to eventually a bigger point. And if we're being honest, this is a very high risk fight for KSI with not as much reward as one of the bigger fights like maybe Tommy Fury or especially Jake Paul. If he wants that Jake Paul fight and he loses to Darren Till, I feel like that would be very tough to sell. I mean, people are still going to watch KSI versus Jake Paul regardless, but KSI is coming off a loss to Tommy Fury. A loss to Darren Till would definitely hurt his stock, and I feel like Darren Till would be a big favorite in that fight. He has the advantages in the size. He's bigger than KSI. He has a lot of experience, obviously, in MMA, but he's also a good striker. So this would be a tough fight for KSI and one which I don't really see his team taking, especially next. The matchmaking of KSI's career so far hasn't really been up to what most people would have wanted out of him, and so far he hasn't taken one of these big MMA fighters on, so I don't know if he will against Darren Till.
I think the biggest factor is it would just be very unfortunate to see this Darren Till opportunity pass and a fight with Darren Till just not be made, especially because all the fans are really excited coming off of Darren's win, and they see him as a perfect opportunity to KSI show that he's on the level of Jake Paul. As mentioned, Jake Paul is the one that took all these MMA fighters such as Mike Perry, Anderson Silva, etc. However, KSI has gone a different route and we haven't really seen him against that type of style, with his biggest challenge being Tommy Fury, and that was really the biggest change in level since Logan Paul all those years ago.
I feel like Darren Till would probably be, if KSI was to beat him, the best win that anyone has in this influencer boxing scene. Better than Jake Paul beating Anderson Silva, better than him beating Mike Tyson, obviously. I don't know what else. What other wins did Jake Paul have? Nate Diaz is better than that. I feel like this is the best win out of KSI or Jake Paul. Obviously, they both lost to Tommy Fury. They came up short. Darren Till was supposed to fight Tommy Fury. I think Darren Till has already proven with his one fight against Anthony Taylor that he is one of these top guys. He could definitely hang with these guys, to say the least, if not beat them, if not put up a really bad beating on them. Who knows his level right now. It seems like KSI's team in terms of matchmaking is kind of all over the place lately. We have Leon Wills coming out and pretty much saying that KSI's team, his coaching staff, actually are the guys who do the matchmaking, not Mams Taylor. And that's pretty weird to me, honestly. I don't see why he would get his coaching staff, who obviously are going to pick the easier stylistic matchups and the ones to build KSI up. It's not like KSI has all this time in the world. You need someone that knows the business aspect, that will understand the business aspect and do what's best for business, which is not to be fighting guys like Wayne Bridge, in my opinion. And while I don't feel like KSI should fight Darren Till next, like for his fight in March, I do think he should fight him eventually, like in the summer.
And I just feel that's why fans are so deeply outraged about the original matchmaking of Wayne Bridge. They see this guy coming in with no real combat sports experience, 44-year-old retired soccer player, and then you see the types of matchups that Jake Paul has been making against MMA guys, at least guys with experience, even though he's been criticized for fighting against older people. Anderson Silva, Mike Perry, and even more, those guys at least have MMA experience, fighting experience. When you get a guy that doesn't have any experience and is old as well, that's not the right combination to make, especially when they, right before the announcement, they were kind of clowning Jake Paul with the grandpa and making a joke out of it, just to bring in an older guy as well. So it's just a bad look in general.
Even Tommy Fury, who has been out of the ring at the same time as KSI, they both fought each other last in October of 2023. He was scheduled to fight Darren Till. Granted, he didn't end up making it to the ring against him, so I don't know how much you could take from that, but KSI does have more to lose than these guys. He is a big name, so if he were to lose to Darren Till, that would be pretty bad for his stock, but you gotta take those risky fights to get your name out there and to be the star that he wants to be, because what's the point of doing it if you're not going to be taking the challenges? KSI says he's the best, so if he wants to prove it, a great fight would be against Darren Till. Hopefully this fight happens in 2025.
Yeah, that's exactly the main point. It's not like KSI is coming in as a young boxer trying to make his way through the regionals and then fight competition, slowly building up, trying to look for a title. This guy is an influencer with a huge fan base, and he's trying to just get the biggest fights. That's what people expect from him. That's what people want from him.
He already is
not just random opponents. He is the main guy. That's why people come to see every fight, regardless even of the name. But the point is, people are looking to see good competition with a big star name attached to it. But if none of those criteria are being met, then of course outrage is going to come. And Darren Till is the perfect opponent at the perfect time. Granted, it's a huge risk, so KSI's team are obviously measuring that. Also knowing the MMA aspect, shoot fighters know Darren Till is going to be a serious test as he comes from MMA as well. So it's really more just weighing options for KSI's team and him.
That's a good point. And I also do think that Darren Till's style is going to be one that is very tough for KSI, because it's not like Darren Till hasn't seen something like that. He fought Wonderboy Thompson in the UFC. He beat Wonderboy, who has a very similar bouncing, karate blitzing style that KSI does in boxing. And now, granted, Wonderboy has been doing that his whole life. Now, that's not boxing, that's MMA. But still, it's not something that he's unfamiliar with, like Tommy Fury, who was up against KSI doing jumping jacks, had no clue what was in front of him, had no clue what he was looking at, and kind of got flustered by the moment, didn't know what to do against that style. Darren Till is not going to be the same. He understands that style. He's seen that before, and I feel like KSI's style won't trick him as much, so it is a much harder stylistic fight, in my opinion, than even Tommy Fury was.
So at the end of the day, we'll see what Misfits and KSI do with Darren Till. But who do you guys think KSI is going to be fighting next in the influencer boxing world? And if you enjoyed the video, make sure you like, subscribe, and turn on notifications.